What are the 7 Easter eggs that we noticed in the new HBO Harry Potter teaser trailer? And what are our first thoughts on the magical atmosphere that they're creating? Keep watching to find out all about this and more. Welcome, wizards, witches, muggles, and squibs, back to SpellBuzz. I'm your host, Francesca Williams, and in this video, we'll be talking all about the new HBO Harry Potter teaser trailer. Specifically, we'll look at our first impressions and also what they kept the same to the films and what they changed. So let me just start off by saying SpellBuzz is all about the new HBO series. That's mainly what we talk about on here. So if you head over to our channel, you'll find lots more videos on HBO, but you'll also find some other videos on the Harry Potter series as a whole. So if that's something you're interested in, go and check it out. I'd also like to start by saying I know a lot of people are boycotting the HBO series before it's even come out. But here at SpellBuzz, we're trying to keep an open mind. So we appreciate the work that HBO are doing on this book series that we love so much. So trying to keep an open mind and open discussions about it and what we think they could do better and what they have done well, essentially. So let's start off by recapping the scenes that we saw in the trailer. First up, we saw Harry's home life with the Dursleys. A lot of it was his time at Privet Drive, and I also enjoyed that they included moments that Petunia was speaking down to him, as it really started to set up that atmosphere. Overall, from the trailer already, I felt that it was looking kind of more dark than the films, especially for the first season. So after that, we then saw Harry get his Hogwarts acceptance letter, and then from there he was at King's Cross Station on the train where we see the Weasleys, and then we got into the Hogwarts atmosphere where we saw a lot about Quidditch and friendship and also about the Golden Trio. So it really just sort of set it up for the series to basically come in and for us to see it. So what are our first impressions on the characters? So let's start off with Harry, played by Dominic McLaughlin. My first impression of him is someone that I thought when I watched the teaser trailer, wow, I could really see him as Harry. Obviously it will take some getting used to, as Daniel Radcliffe is ingrained into my mind, but I really did think he played a good Harry. I enjoyed that they made his eyes green, thank goodness. Also, I really liked their prosthetics of the scar. I felt that it looked much more like a real scar. It shows why no one would have ever questioned it in the Muggle world, because it does just look like a funny shaped scar. Whereas I felt in the films, Harry's scar did look more like, I don't know, more of a scab, which I think teachers and the Dursleys would have questioned a bit more. From that, let's talk about the other members of the Golden Trio. So we have Alistair Stout, who played Ron Weasley, and I thought he was a brilliant Ron. He really has some of Ron's mannerisms.
I think I'm scarily like my character.
And really looks like kind of how Ron is described in the books. And I love the playfulness of them as well in the teaser. It really showed, they really felt like children, you know? I feel like in the films, yes, they did feel like kids, but it felt a little bit more serious. But what I've seen in the teaser so far, they really do feel like 11-year-olds going on this first big adventure. So then we have Hermione, played by Arabella Stanton. My first thoughts with her is her hair is definitely bushy, and while it is a little bit on the more neater side, it is quite frizzy as well. So I thought they did that really well. And I also could definitely see her teeth. So I don't know if she's got prosthetics or whether that is just her teeth, but they were more visible than Emma Watson's ever were. So I think that is a really positive step for Hermione as a character, because obviously that is a big part of her feeling like she doesn't fit in all the time and why she hangs out more with the Golden Trio. I feel if you were to look into her psychology, she probably feels like she doesn't fit in with kind of other girls because she has these insecurities. So I like that they showed that. And then obviously when it gets to the Goblet of Fire, I have spoken about this before, then she can have a full makeover, which will be great. So then we also have the Dursleys. With Petunia, I felt she was done very well. So in the book, she is described as blonde. And when I saw her, she really just felt very era appropriate as well. She really felt very 90s, very early 90s, which is when it's set, compared to, I feel like the films felt a little bit more early 2000s, late 90s. So I really like that about her. And then Vernon, although he wasn't as dark haired as in the films and the books. No, he wasn't dark-haired in the films. As he was in the books, sorry. He still had brown hair, which is a positive step. And he wasn't as obese as he was in the films. That's what I was trying to say. However, he still was rather chubby, so that works as well. And then we had Dudley, and Dudley was definitely blonde, which he is in the books. And I felt this was a really nice addition because I got to see in the teaser trailer a snippet of Harry and Dudley at school. They just looked, the dynamic just looked so good between them. Well, not positive, but better and closer to the books. I really like that as well. But let's talk about the teachers that we saw for a little moment. So we have McGonagall, we have Snape, and we have Dumbledore. So for McGonagall, for me personally, I thought she was amazing. When I saw her, I mean, I honestly felt that is the McGonagall that I've been picturing. She almost looked like all the illustrations people have done of her using just the book description. She looked so spot on to me. I don't know what you guys think about that, and I'd love to hear your thoughts, so leave them down below in the comments, but that was how I felt about her. And when I saw her character, I actually thought that her character in the series went really hand in hand with her character in the films. And although her character in the films is obviously a lot older, I could almost see her characters in the films as the one in the series. For me, I really liked that. It felt like it slotted in very seamlessly. She obviously has her very dark black hair, and she also had a bit of a Scottish-esque outfit on, which obviously nods to her heritage, and I enjoyed that as well. So then we have Snape, which he's obviously very controversial within the fandom. I actually didn't mind him that much. However, I will say, obviously, because in the books he's described as sallow and having sallow skin and greasy hair, and then in the series he has a darker skin and dreads. I think if I saw a picture of him with no context, just saying, you know, this is a professor in Hogwarts, I wouldn't know which professor they were talking about. However, in the context of the whole series, I really didn't mind. I don't know what you guys think about that, but when I actually saw the trailer, I was like, it really doesn't make that much of a difference. And then we have Dumbledore, and I felt once again he was very spot on. He reminded me so much of Dumbledore from the first film. He was just so vibrant, his little half moon glasses and his long beard. I think he was actually quite interchangeable with the Dumbledore from the first film. If you put them side by side, I don't think there'd be that many differences, but in a positive way. Obviously this one is a bit more book accurate, but I felt he was quite spot on as well. Then obviously we have some of the classmates. So we got a little glimpse of Neville, which was really nice, but I mean, we didn't see him for long enough for me really to be able to comment on him. We saw Draco. I quite like Draco. Obviously, the original Draco is iconic. Tom Felton is iconic for Draco. But I think this Draco, he's nearly there, to be honest. And I liked costuming for him, especially because I don't know if you could see it, but you've seen in photos and elsewhere that he has a ring on. And this possibly nods to obviously the Malfoy family, and it could have been a signet ring, which feels very fitting for his character to sort of flaunt that he is a Malfoy, you know. So I really enjoyed that. And then also his smirk, he just seems like he's up to mischief. I don't know if this is factual, but this was my perception from the trailer, so let me know what you think, but he seemed a bit taller than Ron and Harry, and I quite like that because I think the visual dynamic of him being a bit more of the bully and being a little bit taller than them at that age is really, really nice. Like, it just gives that feeling, like that secondary school feeling, so I like that. It felt very true because, you know, if he was shorter than Ron and Harry, it'd be a bit weird, like you wouldn't be able to bully them as easily. I hope that makes sense to you, but let me know what you think. But I thought that was a really nice touch. Now we see Hagrid on the London Underground. Now I felt the look of Hagrid was very, very accurate, but there was something about him that was just a little bit off. I'm not saying it's anything to do with the actor at all, because I actually thought he's a great actor, but I wonder if Robbie Coltrane is so ingrained into our imaginations that we almost can't see past him when we look at Hagrid. I don't know how you felt about it, but for me that's what I felt, and I just wonder also if this Hagrid in the series is a little bit more softer spoken than Robbie Coltrane. He almost didn't have as much of a booming voice. Obviously, I know this scene was taken on the London Underground, so he would have maybe been watching how loud he was speaking, so it would make sense as a character choice. But I did feel like, you know, film Hagrid was a little bit more obnoxious from the trailer we've seen. But I did really like the bit of Hagrid doing a snow angel in the snow. I felt that was so on point. It really gives the gentle giant look, and it really feels like Hagrid, like he is immature. So it felt right. We also saw some locations. These locations on book accuracy were kind of varying. I felt like they were more book accurate than they were film similar, if that makes sense. Obviously, King's Cross was book accurate and film accurate because it was literally King's Cross station in London. The Hogwarts train was also book accurate and film accurate because it was the exact same one they used in the film. Where it differs is Hogwarts. So Hogwarts had a very different feeling, I felt, in the trailer than it did to the films. Now, I don't know what you guys think, but it felt more grand. It felt bigger, and it also felt more strange. I don't know if that's right for me to say that, but to me, that's what I felt. It did feel a little bit more odd. I was watching it and I was going, oh, I can see why Harry struggled to find his feet. Whereas I think the Hogwarts in the films feels quite like just an old school vibe. Whereas in this series, it really does feel a bit weird and a bit strange, which I think is perfect for Hogwarts. And the Dursleys' house was shown to be the same also pretty much as the films too, and I felt it was very accurate. It looked very time accurate, very 90s once again, and I really enjoyed that as well. Now we see Hagrid on the London Underground. Now the London Underground is basically the same as the films because once again it's a real place in London, it's not a set, and you know, you can't really go wrong with the London Underground. It's been the same since the 1950s, basically. So, you know, it's going to stay the same. Now, something else about book accuracy is they actually gave a lot of time to Christmas, it seemed. They had bits where the children were throwing snowballs at each other, which I liked. It really builds the Hogwarts atmosphere. I really felt that from the trailer, the Hogwarts atmosphere, it was more about them being at Hogwarts rather than the story almost. Which is what we have spoken about before on this channel, that we think the way they're going to try and get people to watch the series is by presenting the magical atmosphere. So I felt that they did that, and I do kind of want to watch it just based off that, the fact that I get to see and feel what Hogwarts is like once again. So that was a big thing for me. Another thing that they also did that I loved, which was very book accurate, is when Harry picks up his acceptance letter, there's actually two other things below that. And one is a postcard from his Aunt Marge, and one is like something else. I can't remember what it was in the book, but it is the same as the book, which is, I think, absolutely brilliant because it's like they are actually paying attention to every little detail. The details that we fans have been saying for years that we want so badly. We were like, we need to see all the little things. I really think this trailer shows that they are thinking about all these little things, even down to Harry's clothes. When you see Harry running with his trolley in platform 9 3/4, his clothes are huge, very baggy. They look absolutely like they could have been Dudley's. And in the films, although his clothes were too big for him, I don't know, it just didn't give that vibe as much, whereas the clothes that Harry was wearing almost seemed a bit cool, if that makes sense, which I liked because obviously Petunia and Vernon would always buy Dudley the absolute best, whatever he wanted. And so it makes sense that when Harry gets these clothes, while they are kind of cool, obviously they're still out of fashion, but they wouldn't have been, you know, dreary, because they are, at the end of the day, Dudley's hand-me-downs, and Dudley would have always had the best. So that was something I also liked. But yes, I think they just really captured the atmosphere and the time period. I personally think a lot better than the films did, but that's just from the clip I've seen. I feel like the costumes also didn't look costumey. They looked like clothes, especially the robes. They looked like proper outfits that someone would put on and go to the shop and buy and wear, compared to the films, which I felt everything was just a little bit too perfect in places. And so obviously it did seem a bit costumey. So that's my opinion on the atmosphere. Was the teaser trailer unexpected? Absolutely. I definitely thought it was going to come a bit later in the year, but they did give us signs. So on March 17th at King's Cross Station, there was HBO signage up, and then they obviously invited influencers to do some events within that time. And then right before they released the trailer, the day before, we got a photo on Instagram, which everybody was talking about. And my comment on this, obviously, is that while it set up the atmosphere and everyone was really excited, I noticed something that I thought was really, really cool, which I just want to mention to you. And that is the fact that it was a Hogwarts and Gryffindor Quidditch match. We don't see that in the films. So I think they're going to be presenting some more of the Hogwarts atmosphere, especially through Quidditch, which is super duper exciting, because I just feel like that wasn't done as much throughout the film series, especially when you get to Order of the Phoenix. There's a whole thing about Ron wanting to be on the Quidditch British team and, you know, really doing his thing. And it's kind of cut out of the film. So I think it's so good that that is now being put in the series. I also really like the Fred and George banner as well, because it shows that people are cheering and they take it very seriously. So that was really cool and interesting. Now, it's being released Christmas 2026. So HBO have been lying to us because they told us it wasn't going to be released until early 2027. So come on, HBO. But my opinion on this is that Christmas is actually a much better time to release it, because if you're not in the UK, let me let you into a little secret, and that is the fact around Christmas every single year, the TV channels start playing Harry Potter. They'll play it sort of every night. So they'll pick a week, and Monday they'll play Philosopher's Stone, and Sunday they'll play Deathly Hallows Part 2. So Christmas time is a great time to release it, especially if they're trying to really hype their HBO release in the UK, because I think people will buy HBO just to watch it, especially around Christmas. But I think if you leave it till spring, you won't get as much hype. So from a business perspective, that was definitely a good idea. Now, do we think there's going to be a longer trailer? Now, while the teaser wasn't short for a teaser trailer, it was just over 2 minutes long, I think there definitely will be a longer trailer, which hopefully will be coming out quite shortly. And now I'm really off with my time, because I think, well, if they're going to release the actual series by Christmas, then it's got to be somewhere between now and Christmas that they release it. And I wonder if they are going to go for September 1st, which I have also spoken about before, because I think for a long trailer that would be a brilliant day. Now, I have spoken about that more in another video, so I won't get into that too much now. But if you want to hear about possible release dates and trailer dates, then we do have another video on the channel. Obviously, now we know all about the actual release dates. Some of those points are a little bit void, but it's still very interesting if you'd like to go and have a look. At the beginning of this video, I mentioned that we saw 7 Easter eggs in the teaser trailer. This must have been an intentional choice by HBO, because if you don't know, 7 is a very important, specific and reoccurring number in the Harry Potter series. So let's get into what they are. The first one I have already mentioned, but let's just quickly go over it. And this is when Harry Potter picks up his mail, sees his Hogwarts acceptance letter, that he also sees a postcard from Aunt Marge and then a brown envelope, and he doesn't know what's in it, but he assumes it must be bills. And this obviously shows that they are paying attention to the entire Harry Potter universe and all the little details in the book. And then we have number 2, which is the cupboard under the stairs. And if you look closely, you see one of Harry Potter's drawings on the wall, and it's of a flying motorbike. Now, to me, this tells you that he must have known something was up. As in the books, it mentions that he kind of remembers some weird things sometimes and gets some weird nightmares, and it's really nice that they allude to the fact that he kind of remembers the night his parents died. Then we have number 3, which is Ginny's reflection in the glass, that she was looking directly at Harry. This is really interesting because it really sets up the atmosphere for the fact that Harry is just so well known in the wizarding world. And I really like that choice as well, because it alludes to the fact that in the second year, Ginny has this whole plot with Voldemort, Tom Riddle, and Harry has to come and save her, and obviously eventually they end up married. So I think it's a really nice way to start their relationship. If that sounds weird, I know they're only very young in the first season, but it's a nice foreshadowing moment. Then we have number 4, which is the sorting hat, and it actually looks almost identical to the films, which I really like, because they're keeping that film atmosphere alive and not straying too far from it, because for us, the films are so nostalgic. Then we have number 5, and that is Professor Binns. Now, if you don't know who this is, he's the history of magic professor, and he is talked about a lot in the books, but he's not shown at all in the films. And if you look closely in the back of some of the lessons, you can see him far in the background. And then at number 6, we have the Nimbus 2000 Easter egg. And this is when you see the box for the Nimbus 2000. And on it, there's like a little slogan that says, "Swift as Snitch." Now, for me, this really sets up the wizarding world again, because they've actually gone into the thought process behind those who are marketing wizarding products. You know, they've gone into so much detail that they sort of know slogans that companies would use to get wizards to buy stuff. Like, I just think that's so lovely for us, because it really enhances the wizarding world to a new level that we haven't seen before. We have number 7, and this is Professor Dumbledore, and he's shown kind of on the Gringotts set, it must be, in Muggle clothes, but he's holding a tuning fork. Now, presumably, he is trying to discover who attempted to break in and steal the Philosopher's Stone. But this tuning fork is interesting, because in the books, on the back of his chocolate frog card, it says that he likes chamber music, and obviously a tuning fork is used to tune musical instruments. However, in the context of Dumbledore, a tuning fork could even be used as something to, detect dark magic. So it really, Dumbledore is really a wild card, but that is something that I really like that they paid attention to. Overall, I really think that they did an amazing job of capturing the essence of Harry Potter. I really liked that they didn't stray too far away from the film's atmosphere either. I just feel like they've taken the film and they've made it a bit more vibrant in terms of colours, but then they've made sort of the atmosphere darker, if that makes any sense to you. And I feel like they made it darker by sort of using the weather and stuff to make it a bit darker, but they've made the clothes and the sets a bit more vibrant. So I really like that because it does show that, for me, it's like pathetic fallacy, which if you don't know is foreshadowing using weather, which feels like, you know, although it seems lovely and bright and vibrant and exciting, something is wrong and something is gonna happen, which kind of is the premise of every single Harry Potter book. He's having a great time and then it goes like this. So I absolutely love that. Now, if you're new here, don't forget to like and subscribe, and that helps me to bring more HBO videos to you. And also, if you haven't seen us before, go and check out our other videos on the channel because we have tons on HBO theories and what we know so far, and we're really delving into this series. I have asked you a lot of questions throughout this video, so I won't ask you any more at the end, but I will just say if you have any ideas that vary from mine, we'd love to hear them down below, because once again, as we said, we love an open discussion around this HBO series because it's taking something that we love so much and doing it again. So there's a lot to talk about. But that's all from me today. Bye bye now.